So here it says attendees 11. So that means that's the number of people that have signed up, right?
No, that's just the number of people that are in this webinar. There's 18 who registered.
So these 11 people have already joined?
They're just waiting. Like they're just waiting for you to start the broadcast.
Okay, I just started, so I'll be on here now. Good morning, everybody. This is Vikrant. It's great to be with you here. Hopefully, all of you can hear me and see the slides that I have. Um, just a quick show of hands. Could you guys just acknowledge just to make sure that you can see the screen and hear me fine? Or if you're not able to hear me or having any issues, could you guys please let us know? There's a chat window here on which you can leave messages. So I just want to make sure before I get started, everybody can hear me fine. Okay, great. So it looks like everybody's fine. So again, thanks for joining. Thanks for taking the time. It's really exciting to be here with all of you. I think I may have spoken with some of you uh, when you had joined with us, but in case we haven't spoken, again, by means of introduction, my name is Vikrant. I'm the co-founder of Future Today, and really excited to be here with all of you and share our story with you, and also kind of highlight what we are doing in terms of distribution, monetization, and most importantly, answer any questions or concerns that you may have. So what I really wanted to kind of do today was a few different things. One, just to share some background with you. Some of you may already be aware of this, and I may have shared this with you, but um, I just wanted to take some time and talk about why we started doing what we're doing, and what we are trying to achieve with this, leading into where we are in terms of a company, in terms of technology, and in terms of content traffic and some other metrics, and going forward share with you what our vision for the future is, how we are planning to grow the company, how we're planning to help you with distribution, monetization, and then finally get any input from you, any comments, feedback, any questions from you with respect to your experience so far, and or even going forward, if you have any questions around the plans that we have or the plans that you may have for your content and your channel going forward. So with that, let's just dive in. I have about 12 or 13 slides here. I'll keep it brief, and I encourage you to, as I go along, ask questions. You can post them in the chat box here, and we have Soma and Erica who are looking at it, and so if we have a question, they'll stop me and we can address those questions. But I'll try to also leave some time at the end so that we can take more questions at the end. So with that, let's just kind of talk about the first slide. So just to give you some background and history, we started this company about 7 years ago, and the reason we started this was because we felt that there was, from a consumer standpoint, there was a huge need for people looking for high quality, personalized lifestyle and family focused video content on demand. And this was again back when YouTube was just getting started. It hadn't been acquired by Google just yet, and we, along the same lines of YouTube, felt a need for having a multi-platform product where people could come and access content on a variety of different topic areas, but really high quality, very, very niche content is what we're focusing on. And so so that was kind of the thought process, and we started with food and cooking as our first vertical that we wanted to target, and there was a bunch of reasons behind it, but food and cooking we thought was a great vertical to start off with, and that's what we focused on back then. We started off by launching a website called iFood.tv, on which we were growing content and traffic. It was mostly focused on on growing traffic on the web. And then over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, we've expanded onto other platforms, which I'll talk about in a minute. But that was kind of the pain point that we felt from a consumer standpoint. From a video producers and content creator standpoint, we felt that as more video creators start creating niche, high quality content, there's going to be a need for them to distribute and monetize this. And so we felt that there needs to be a platform that can help them do that. Obviously, YouTube has in some ways become the de facto platform today, which we feel is great. And YouTube has in many ways created this industry and has made it more mainstream. But what we really want to do is we want to think about other platforms, other screens, other devices on which you can potentially have your content. And so we feel that there's a huge audience on YouTube, which is absolutely great, and all of you are tapping into. But to the extent that we could leverage our relationships, our technology, and product expertise to help you drive traffic on other platforms where you may not have a presence today, that's kind of what really we want to do, and that's our focus. And then thirdly, from a brand's standpoint, we felt that brands are looking for a brand safe environment in which they can reach their audience. And so again, back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when YouTube had started, there were a lot of questions around the viability of YouTube as an advertising platform. And that was primarily because brands were concerned about the quality of content. There were issues about piracy. In general, brands were taking a long time to embrace YouTube as an advertising platform. And so we felt the need to, one, be an alternative in that space, but then two, also leverage our platform capabilities to provide brands with what they need, which is, in addition to reaching the audience, they want better targeting tools. They want to incorporate social components into campaigns. And I'll talk a little more about some of these things, but the idea really is to figure out how we can help you make more money through the content that you have already created or are currently creating for distribution on YouTube and any other platforms, right? And so keeping those things in mind, the solution that we put together essentially incorporated the needs of each one of those three verticals, or each one of those three groups that I just talked about. And our focus really, for as you think about those three groups in the order of importance or priority, our focus really is, one, we want to work very closely with our content creators. So that's really the key focus for us, which is all of you guys. And what we really wanted to do was put together a process, put together a model where you don't have to do any additional work in addition to whatever else you may be doing on YouTube and any other platforms. And you don't have to incur any cost to embrace the solution that we're putting together. And so we've essentially tried to put together a model where, without any effort and or cost on your part, you could get your content, give it to us, and make it available on all of these different platforms that we're thinking about without incurring any cost or spending any extra time on your side. And so as a function of that objective, what we've done is we've put together a strong relationship management team, which is Soma, Erica. They work with you. They make sure that your content's uploaded on time, your channels are getting uploaded on time. From an editorial standpoint, the content is curated properly. The corresponding tags, taxonomy, categories, etc., are properly assigned, and also from a marketing and distribution standpoint, providing you the support that you need. So that's really kind of the core foundation of the solution. All of this obviously sits on top of the technology platform, which incorporates the content management aspect of managing all of this content, and then app development, the delivery of content, the monetization of it, and then the reporting aspects of it. And I would say from a technology standpoint, we feel that we're 70 to 80% there. There are a lot more things that we have planned out in the future and stuff that we're working on. And we would love to have your input and feedback on it. So although there's a ton of stuff that's been built out, we feel that there's definitely more things that we need to work on and develop. And so that's kind of the core foundation of the solution, the platform. And then on top of it, thinking about the user experience. So thinking about how do we best curate, categorize the content? How do we make it discoverable? How do we enable retention, engagement? How do we get people to come back and watch more and more of your content? And so that starts to kind of touch upon the marketing aspects of our solution, but also from a technology standpoint, how can we make sure that the users are provided with the best user experience that drives superior engagement and interactivity? Right. So in terms of, I talked a little bit about this, but in terms of the evolution of the company, like I said, we started way back in 2006, and the idea really was to bring these unique media consumption experiences to people's living rooms. And so we started off with the web, but then as iPhone and other smartphones became more mainstream, we launched apps for mobile platforms and devices. And then about 3.5 years ago, we launched the iFood.tv app on Roku. And back when we had launched, there was just actually one other app on Roku in the food category. There was Chow and there was iFood.tv. And ever since, I think that ecosystem has grown where there's probably 70 plus apps now in the food category. But we manage and control, I would say, about 75 to 80% of that. And so as we kind of transitioned from purely web to mobile and connected TV, we felt that we were ready to, as per our original plans, start expanding beyond food. And so I think that's where all of you come in, where we started looking at health, fitness, beauty and fashion, comedy, home and living, kids and family, a whole bunch of different lifestyle related verticals initially, but our plan is to go even beyond that. And so what we really feel is, if you look at Netflix, and that's really a company that we admire and we feel has done a great job with respect to growing their footprint and building an omnipresent solution. We feel that Netflix has done a tremendous job bringing Hollywood-related, whether it be movies or TV shows, content to the masses. And that's great, but we feel that there's a ton of other types of content that people want to consume and engage with. And the example that I always give is, if you look at your cable channel lineup, you have the big four networks, which are focusing on Hollywood-focused TV shows, movies related content. But then you also have the Food Network, you have the Travel Channel, you have the History Channel, you have TLC. So there's a whole bunch of channels that people consume today through their cable subscriptions that Netflix doesn't really have an alternative for. And so what we're really trying to do is we're trying to, in some ways, mimic that model and say, how can we bring niche but high quality, interesting lifestyle and other category focused content to the masses, scalable in a way that promotes discovery, engagement, and interactivity, and in a way that it rewards our content producers for the content that they're creating and helps them reduce their dependency on YouTube, and essentially have a more balanced mix of platforms that they're dependent on for distribution and monetization. So just kind of taking a step back, as we were thinking about the expansion uh, along mobile and connected TV, and we started rolling out iFood.tv channels on some of these other devices. There were a couple of interesting things that we noticed. So the first thing that we noticed was when we launched the mobile apps, we noticed that the engagement that we were seeing on our mobile apps was much higher than the engagement that we were seeing on the web. And so, as an example, if let's say on a per session basis, if a user comes to iFood.tv website and they would watch one video per session, we would on mobile see anywhere from 3 to 4 videos being watched per session. And that kind of made sense because mobile, it's a portable device. You can be sitting on your couch, and it's a much more comfortable viewing experience, especially on tablets, where you can consume more content, unlike a traditional desktop environment or consuming content through your laptops, which could be somewhat more clunky. And so that was interesting. And then when we launched connected TVs, we noticed the engagement that we were seeing in terms of videos played back per session of viewership. That was actually, in comparison to mobile, it was about 3 to 4 times that of mobile. And with respect to the web, we were seeing anywhere from 6, in some cases 10 times more videos viewed per session on connected TV versus the web. So that really was a big discovery for us, because that showed to us the power of television as a consumption mechanism. And we felt that, and it kind of made sense to us, because as we thought about this, we felt that it makes sense because all of us grew up watching TV. And so TV, as again a video consumption experience and device, is very, very native to us. And if we want to watch content for a long period of time in an environment that's very lean back, requires very little interaction, TV is really the device and the means to do it. And different people use TV for in different ways and consume content on TV in different ways. But sometimes your TV is the babysitter when you want your kids to be busy for some time. Sometimes it's a companion when you're cooking and you want something to play in the background. And so, and sometimes it's a very, very engaged experience where that's the only thing that you're focused on. And the example could be a movie that you're watching or a TV show that you're watching. So we felt that it made sense, and we felt that if we really wanted to drive viewership and engagement over an extended period of time, we really need to focus on connected TVs and just simply TV as a consumption device. So from an engagement standpoint, that made a lot of sense. The other thing that we saw was from an advertising and monetization standpoint, what we started to see was that on the web, the CPMs that we were seeing for advertisements were starting to fall. And that has happened over the last couple of years. And as we dug deeper into it, we realized that it was happening because of 2 reasons. One was because of the advent of real-time bidding platforms and exchanges. The traffic on the web was getting commoditized, and as a result, for brands that were not super premium, there was very little that they could do to differentiate themselves. And so as a result, brands were advertising brands were now paying lower and trying to get access to that traffic for a cheaper price. So that's one. The second thing that was happening on the web was a surplus of inventory. So on the web, for example, and some of you may have seen these reports, there were a lot of reports recently about questionable traffic that websites are buying, putting on their websites, and then monetizing using video pre-roll. And so brands were a lot more skeptical of paying top-notch dollars for websites and publisher brands that they didn't completely know or trust. And so as a result of that, there was a downward pressure because of the increase in supply that was happening because of people buying potentially questionable traffic. The supply was increasing, and as a result, the prices were driving down. So that was the second reason. And the third reason we realized was happening was because the ad networks and agencies were now guaranteeing traffic. So because of the problem with respect to the quality of traffic that the advertising agencies and brands were seeing, they were now going out to ad networks and saying, here's the demographic I want to target. So I'm looking at, for example, moms with young kids between the ages of 2 to 5, and I want 5 million impressions for this particular demographic, and I want you to guarantee me that you're going to deliver this demographic for me. And so as a result, what was happening was that because of targeting capabilities that are available, and they're not 100% accurate, ad networks in most cases would have to over deliver on the impressions just to meet that guarantee. And so as a result, for publishers and websites, the effective CPMs that they were getting were dropping. And so as a function of these three things, we realized that the CPMs are dropping, the engagement is lesser on the web, and so we realized that it made a lot of sense for us to focus more on connected smart TV platforms and devices, because not a lot of companies and not a lot of brands are embracing that from a content standpoint. So there's an opportunity for us to be the early adopter in the space and gain market share. Two, the CPMs are much higher compared to the web, and three, the engagement is much higher on connected TVs. So the chance that a content brand has to make a deeper, much more richer connection with the user is much more strong, the chance is much higher on smart TVs versus the web, where people are flipping from one click to the other, or going from one tab to the other on their browser. And so that made us kind of focus more on the connected TV side of the business, and then we also validated that theory and assumption by looking at different industry research reports and market research reports, one of which I have shared here, where it talks about how 97% of video viewing still is happening on TVs, and people are now spending more time watching non-linear content. So video on demand and or streaming is a much bigger component of people's consumption patterns today than it was a few years ago. And the growth in connected TV viewing is leading shifts towards new form of TV content consumption, right? So these things all put together made us very, very bullish about the future of connected and smart TVs. And in talking to friends and family, we all realized that we consume content on demand. We're watching more of it when we want it, where we want it. And besides sports, very few people, at least in our knowledge, or people that we know, are watching content linearly, live on TV. And so as a function of all of those variables, we decided to focus more on connected TVs, and that's really, we feel that we could grow and excel and add significant value to your businesses as you guys are thinking about going off of YouTube and looking at other platforms. So in terms of where we are today, we've been able to expand into a variety of different verticals. We do roughly about 30 million high quality video streams every month. we have a library of about 70,000 videos, and it is all credit to you guys who have shared this with us. Um, and the focus is to really build out a multi-screen experience for users so that your brands can be accessed on any platform, on any device, and you can essentially have multiple touch points across the ecosystem of distribution devices, right? And so in order for us to do that, what we've done is we've built very strong relationships with the equipment and device manufacturers, which includes the likes of Roku, Sony, LG, Amazon Fire TV, a whole bunch of different platforms and devices, where to us it is a matter of figuring out how to best leverage the relationship to best highlight the content. And so that relationship really helps us facilitate cross-promotional initiatives, marketing activities, and all the stuff that we can do on our end to help your content get more exposure, more eyeballs, and build a bigger audience. So right now on Roku and other smart TV platforms, we have about 125 plus channels or apps that we are managing, and we have a whole bunch more. Some of you may be in the process of having your content launched. So we're working very hard and tirelessly to make sure that all of the channels that we have currently in the pipeline get launched on these devices as soon as possible. In terms of technology, just to kind of highlight, what we've done is we've built out a platform that is really a multi-screen, multi-platform distribution environment. And so if you look at it, there's really, the content management aspect of it, there's the video delivery, ad insertion aspect of it, and then there's personalization, recommendation aspect of it. But all of this is kind of built into the core technology platform, and it's essentially a hub and spoke model where you have the hub, which is the back end of the system, and then the spokes are the different distribution outlets. So within the connected TV space, for example, we have Google TV, we have Roku, we have Fire TV, we have Sony, etc. On mobile, we are on all major mobile platforms, including tablets and phones. We have the ability to syndicate content on the web, so we can very easily give you or anybody else a video player that has your content, and you can embed it on your websites and distribute it on the web. And then there's the ability to syndicate content and distribute it on social platforms. So in terms of the model, there's really two things that we're focused on. One is, as we kind of grew out of iFood, we've launched some of our own branded channels. And these channels are really meant to, one, help us work with content partners who may not have a very big library of content. So for example, we have some content partners that have really high quality content, but they may have only 25, 30, 40 videos, and they may not be producing as frequently as some of the other partners. And so through our own branded channels, we have the ability to work with them and leverage their content and put them up as a show on one of our existing channels. The second thing is, because we own and run our own channels, we are also in the same boat as you, where we want to promote the channel, we want to grow the audience for that channel. And so that really helps us learn more about how to market, how to promote, how to grow audience. And so all the learnings that we acquire as a function of running and managing our own channels, we bring to your channels, and we try to figure out how best we can leverage those practices or best practices to help you grow your channels and audience. And so that is really, really helpful for us. And then the third thing that our own branded channels help us do is build out an audience that we can very easily leverage to get eyeballs and distribution for our partners. And so with most of our partners, we cross promote their content on on our own channel also, and that gives us the ability to immediately make an impact and get you eyeballs and distribution. So while your own channel may take some time to grow and build that audience, with some of our own branded channels, we can very easily put you out in front of an existing audience, and that really helps generate viewership and eyeballs in a very short amount of time. So that's really the philosophy behind why we run our own branded channels. The second aspect to this is, for some of our bigger partners, we have also helped launch their own branded channels. So if you have a lot of content, if you're producing on a regular basis, and if you really want to grow your own personal brand, we can very easily work with you to help you launch your own branded channels. And I think we may have done that with some of you already. Some of you may be in the pipeline for that, and some of you, if you're open to exploring that, we'd love to talk to you and figure out how we can make that happen. So in terms of our value proposition to our content partners, and a lot of partners ask us as to how we are different from YouTube or an MCN, and I try to put it together, or rather, actually, I try to silo it in different buckets. And so there's 5 key things that we feel we do that in some cases differentiate us from either a multi-channel network or just YouTube in general. So the first thing is, we don't, like I'd said before, we don't want you to do any work in building your presence on some of these other platforms. And so that really is the core philosophy behind how we operate and how we put together this model. And so in order for us to do that, there's a few different things that we have to do. The first thing is, from a content ingestion standpoint, you have to, on YouTube, for example, upload your own content and manage it yourself. So with us, we have a team of editors that will upload your content for you. Once we have an agreement with you, we will go out and do it. We will work closely with you to figure out how to best expose that content, how to best curate it, how to potentially tag it, what categories to assign to it. So to the extent that you want to be involved in the process, we would absolutely welcome your involvement. But we have some partners who just don't have the time to be able to devote to this. And so in that case, we offload the complete editorial work and oversight of their content, and we would essentially just run with the whole editorial aspect of their launch, where they don't really need to spend any time with us at all. And so that's really the first thing. The second thing is obviously the technical services. So some of our partners, for example, used to be on Blip, and now Blip has discontinued their service, and so they're struggling with hosting and streaming. And so what we do is we host all of our content, we encode for all the different platforms that we have to make it available on, we stream it, we report against it. And so the video infrastructure aspect of our technology platform is also very important, and in some ways it competes with companies like Blip or Uyala, Brightcove, where there's a lot of technical infrastructure that we have that we bring to you. So that's on the technical services side. Then the third aspect of it is app development. So once we have your content, once we've curated it, we need to develop the front end, which is all the apps for the various platforms. And so we design and develop the smart TV and mobile apps. And again, you are welcome to be as involved in the process, but in most cases, our partners just delegate that responsibility to us. And so we go out and we do the development. We obviously keep in mind the requirements that you may have from a branding standpoint, from a look and feel standpoint, but we try to stick to those requirements that you may have, and in most cases we do the development without much involvement on our partners' part. Then the third thing is support and maintenance. The fourth thing is support and maintenance. So after we've uploaded the content, after we've launched the channel, any new content that you may be creating needs to be updated on this platform. So that's the first thing that our team's responsible for. The second is that if any of these platforms upgrade, so for example, if Roku comes out with a Roku 4 tomorrow, or if iOS comes out with iOS 9 tomorrow, we are responsible for making sure that your apps are compliant and work well on all of these different platforms, so that you don't have to worry about bug fixes, software upgrades, platform upgrades. We take care of all of those things for you. And then finally, because we are doing all the development for free, we want to be able to market and promote these apps. And so to the extent possible, like I was saying, we leverage the relationships that we have and the learning that we acquire as a result of managing and operating our own apps. We bring those best practices to your apps and channels, and we try to figure out how best to leverage those best practices to help you grow and market your channel. Right now, the one thing that I always tell to all of our partners is that some of these platforms are fairly new, and so the volume there is much smaller compared to YouTube, for example, and that's understandable. I mean, YouTube has 1 billion plus people on the website every single month, whereas Roku, just as an example, has sold about 10 million devices. Right, so out of those 10 million devices, I don't even know how many active users they have on a monthly basis, and how many of those active users are consuming content outside of Netflix and Hulu Plus, and then how many are consuming content in the lifestyle vertical, for example. So the base is much smaller on some of these devices, but the good news is that it's growing, and we've seen this growth happen over the last 3 or 4 years that we've been involved in the industry, where we feel that it is really becoming mainstream now. A lot more people are talking about it. A lot more content partners know about these devices, and so there's a lot more awareness now. And from a user adoption standpoint also, there's a lot more usage now than it was last year or the year before. So we're really bullish about it. We feel that there's a lot of opportunity there. And we just want to continue executing so that kind of like YouTube, where YouTube was nobody was making money on YouTube 5 years ago. It was a great concept, great marketing platform, but the brands were not there yet. We feel that the connected TV industry is kind of going through a similar transition period, where in a year or maybe 2 years time, I think there will be a lot more people using these devices a lot more actively and consuming a lot more content. Right now, we feel that most of the content consumption is happening for apps like Netflix, Hulu Plus, Amazon Instant Video. But as these devices become more mainstream, we feel that a lot more people are going to cut cord and just start consuming content through these devices. So we feel that there's a huge opportunity for us in terms of being able to leverage the lead that we have over other companies in terms of having a presence on these platforms and providing users with that unique experience that they have come to expect off of a traditional television consumption experience. And so to the extent that we could do that, we feel that there's a lot of things to be done, and we feel really excited about it. The next slide is just a few questions that a lot of our partners have asked in the past before, and we just wanted to throw these out. I'm not sure if you have these questions on your mind right now. I may have answered these for you before, but if you have any other questions that I may not have included here, please feel free to post them in the chat window, and I'd be happy to get to them. In terms of, so the first one is how's revenue generated. So in terms of revenue, right now it's a very advertising dependent model. So it's traditional pre-roll advertising is what we use. And as we're growing and as we're kind of thinking about different models, there's really 3 different things that going forward we want to focus on. The first one is, obviously advertising. So that includes standard pre-roll, which is what we have right now, but also custom sponsorship opportunities and our custom sponsorship opportunities and our product reviews, product placements, etc. The second one is subscriptions. So to the extent that you may be interested in creating premium content that you don't potentially want to just give out for free, we are thinking of a subscription model through which people can subscribe for your content and then consume content that way. And then the third model is a transaction-based model, and this would depend on the different verticals that we are looking at. But the idea is to think about content and how it can facilitate commerce or transactions, right? So if you're talking about beauty products, for example, in your videos, the person watching the video might be interested in learning more about the product and specifically learning more about how and where they could go and find this product and buy it potentially. And so to the extent that we could leverage that consumption experience on television and without interrupting the user from watching the video, drive them into the funnel where we could send them more information about the product and where they could go out and buy it. And so that's from a transaction standpoint. In terms of, we have a question Francis is asking, which is, if we could see revenue reports in the account dashboard, and that's coming, Francis. So we already have implemented that functionality, and what we are doing right now is, so right now I think if you see the views, and we should have enabled, so there is another column that we are adding which is called revenue, and it should be enabled, and right now there you might not be seeing any data there, so it might say not applicable or not available. But what we are in the process of doing is, for the last few months at least, we are in the process of uploading the revenue numbers, so hopefully you should see them in the next week or two, and then going forward, when we make the payments, we will add in the revenue numbers. So that has been implemented. We were working on it from a technology standpoint. It has been implemented, and now we're just in the process of moving all the data over to the back end. So you'll be able to see it in the next week or two. The next question is around fill rate and limitations, or how does the connected TV ecosystem differ from some of the other platforms in terms of advertising. And there's really two things that we look at here. So the first one is, from a consumer standpoint, if you look at our TV consumption experience, we watch 7 to 8 minutes of programming uninterrupted, and then we break for commercials. And so on the television, people are not used to watching a 2-3 minute video and a 30-second commercial before the video, and they're not obviously used to watching or having that experience over a long period of time. And so unlike YouTube, where people are very used to that experience, on TV we've seen that if you start monetizing every single playback, it becomes disruptive and people tend to lose interest, they watch less video, and in general the retention is lower. And so as a result of that, what we do is we try to provide users with at least 6 to 8 minutes of uninterrupted programming. So depending on how long your content is, we would monetize 1 in 2 or 3 playbacks at any given time. And so from a user standpoint or consumption experience standpoint, that is the limitation that we have, and that's why we don't monetize every single playback. The other thing is that on the advertising sales side, what we're realizing is that connected TVs are a new it's a new platform that the ad sales teams are now going out and selling, and not all the sales people and not all the buyers understand connected TV very well. And so as a result, what's happening is that connected TV in many cases is sold as an adjunct to any campaigns that they might already be selling. and as a result, the fill rates tend to be lower. So we feel that as these devices become more mainstream and the buyers and the sellers start to understand this better, and as more data becomes available through the platforms, uh, we feel that the fill rates are going to go up, people are going to buy more, and it's going to result in higher fill rates and higher revenues. From a CPM standpoint, what we see is the average CPMs typically vary from anywhere from $6 to $12. In July, for example, I think it was more in the $8 range. Come Q4 in November, December, it would be probably in the $10-11 range. So Q4 the fill rate tends to be higher, and the CPMs tend to be better. And I think that's really just a function of the industry in general. I think you would probably see that with YouTube as well. So in terms of YouTube, and again, one of those questions where people want to know as to how we're different from a YouTube, and sometimes this question comes up when we talk about rev share and how do we split the revenue and whatnot. What we tell them is that it really is these 5 things that I was talking about, right? So all of these things that we provide to our partners, YouTube doesn't provide a lot of these, right? So with YouTube, you have to upload your own content, you have to market it, you have to promote it, you have to support the channel yourself, you have to maintain it yourself. And so that really is, so our model is a very high touch model where it's not just to us, it's not just about mechanically launching channels, it's also about thinking about the user experience, thinking about how best to lay out the channel, how best to sort the content so that it's easily discoverable. And it's also about how best to market and promote the channel so that the quality of the content is highlighted. And then when people discover it, they come back to watch the channel over and over again, right? And so so that's really kind of the core philosophy. And there's all these points that we have, but what we want to do is we want to take the pain away from the process of distributing your content on multiple platforms and devices, and to the extent that we can offload that work for you, our hope is that you can continue to do what you do best, which is producing great quality content, and we can continue to partner and work together and help you bring that content and make it available on all the different devices that you really want to be on. In terms of future plans, so very quickly, we're looking at a lot of different devices and companies where we can have a partnership and distribute the content. So over-the-top devices, gaming devices, tablets. We're working on an HTML5 app, which will really help us distribute the content on a lot of other devices which accept HTML5 applications. So that really is a big focus for us, and I personally am responsible for that. So a lot of my time is spent in terms of thinking about new platforms where we can make our content available and we can help our partners distribute their content. We want to continue signing up more content partnerships and also increase revenue. We feel that there's we're in a process right now where we really want to grow users and viewership, and hopefully the next 3 to 6 months we're going to be focused primarily on that. But then we're also kind of thinking about more long term in terms of building out a sales organization so that we could work closely with you and go out and sell unique, interesting, custom campaigns where you potentially may be compensated on the production costs instead of being compensated on a CPM basis and being dependent on the number of views that you can generate. like I said, thinking about subscription freemium channels, thinking about e-commerce or transaction-based opportunities, where if I'm watching a music video as a user, I can now get access or a link to the iTunes store where I can go and purchase that music. And so that's really our core focus right now in terms of growth. Get more content, be on more platforms, and sell more effectively, so that we can generate more revenue for you and become a more significant part of your financial objectives. So in short, the mission is to be everywhere, dominate new platforms, and help you just build a presence on all these different platforms and devices, where you yourself, may have to spend a lot of time and resources to get to. So that's about it. If you have any other specific questions or concerns, anything that I could share with you, please feel free to type in a question. Yeah, so Chris, hi Chris. So in terms of Chromecast, so yeah, we launched our iFood.tv app, which has Chromecast support. And what we've done is, so 6 months ago we had an iFood.tv iPhone app, and we also had an iFood.tv iPad app. And then we realized that there was no point in having two different apps. So what we've done is we're actually in the process of phasing out our iPad app, and we've updated our iPhone app to actually a unified build. So you can now download the iPhone app, and it actually works natively on iPads as well. So it's the same build which works as native apps on both iPhone and iPad, and then that has the support for Chromecast as well. And so we've just launched it. I think it was launched maybe about a month ago, and what we're doing is we're in the process of updating some of our other apps as well. So for example, on mobile devices we have about, I would say, 8 to 10 food apps, and so we're going to be updating all of those hopefully next week, I think. And then our travel app, our fitness app, health app, all of those are going to be updated, I think, in the next couple of weeks, I would say. So they will all have Chromecast support, and they will all have Chromecast support, and as we get more data, we'll be sharing that with you. In terms of keeping up to date with all the platforms that we're launching, I think the best way is we have a partner newsletter that we send out, and what we try to do is we try to include these announcements in our newsletter. We typically send that once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and so I think the best way would be to just rely on that newsletter, I think, because we're trying to use that newsletter as our point of communication for with all of our partners for things like these. And if you have any suggestions on how to improve the newsletter, the kind of news that you want us to include, please drop us an email, and we'd love to incorporate those changes. Josh, in terms of your videos being lower quality, I think so that should not be the case. So one of the things is, over the last month or so, we've had a major upgrade in our content management system and backend platform, and so there were a few things that got delayed because of that. There were also some bugs that were introduced as a result of this migration, and so I'm not sure if the reason for some of your videos on iFood being lower quality than what you have on YouTube is because of that, but we should fix that problem. So if you could shoot me an email or shoot Soma an email and send us some links to your YouTube videos where the content quality is better than what it is on iFood, we would love to take a look, and we'd love to update the videos so that they're both the same quality. So we could absolutely take care of that. Greg, to your point about how frequently you should update content, so I would say a couple of things. The first is that we don't require you to update your content, um, a certain way, so or with a certain frequency. So what we want to do is, again, we don't want to add more work to your calendar than you already have. And so our focus is to best leverage the content that you are producing already and help you distribute it on other platforms and devices. And so to that extent, we really let you decide based on your interest, based on your availability, based on your schedule, as to how often you want to produce the content. Now, having said that, what we do see is that, the way our channels are laid out, we try to essentially show newer content higher up in the playlists. So what happens is that if, let's say, you upload a video today, and it gets included in a playlist, and then let's say I upload a video tomorrow, which is kind of the same concept, and it gets included in the same playlist, my video will show up above your video because it's newer and more recent. And so to the extent that you update your content more frequently, it would help get more viewers and eyeballs, and it would, because we want to show new and fresh content to users, and that's what they've come to expect. So to the extent that you can update more often, I think it would be helpful, because it just helps us drive more traffic to your content. But having said that, we don't want to enforce any restrictions or rules, because again, we don't want to police the way you produce content, right? So ideally, we love for you to produce as often as possible, but we don't want to restrict you in any way. Okay, so I think we're just about out of time here, and hopefully this helped. Hopefully, we were able to answer some of your questions. But if you have any other questions, concerns, please feel free to write to me directly. I'd love to. I enjoy meeting and talking with all of our partners, and Soma's always here to support you, and Erica's always here to support you. So. So to the extent that we could be of help, please leverage us and reach out to us in any way possible. And we're all super excited about working with you, and we look forward to continuing this partnership. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining.